Star TV நேசத்தின் நெருக்கம்.
Live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening. This is the National News Telecast. I'm Movin Hettiarachchi.
And I'm Sharma Screeners. First, let's look at the day's headlines.
World Bank says the economy of Sri Lanka is stable. Murthy Fernando is the new acting Chief Justice. Calling for applications for the postal votes ends today. Nomination handover continues till tomorrow. 11,000 acres of land belonging to Kantale Sugar Company handed over to the public for cultivations. Foreign envoys assure assistance for development process of Sri Lanka. Indictments for 4 persons including Ajit Niwad Cabral. Ratan Tata, the Indian business tycoon, passes away.
Now for those and other stories in detail, starting off with local news. World Bank says the economy of Sri Lanka has stabilized.
The World Bank has indicated that Sri Lanka's economic growth is expected to reach 4.4% this year, surpassing earlier forecasts. The World Bank's biannual Sri Lanka Development Update titled Opening Up to the Future was released today. A media briefing in this regard was held with the participation of World Bank envoys this morning in Colombo. The report has indicated a positive outlook which follows 4 consecutive quarters of growth driven by industrial and tourism sectors and supported by critical structural and policy reforms. The report has also underscored the country's potential for achieving higher and sustainable growth through trade.
There is a good news. The good news is that after very painful economic crisis, the stabilization has happened and has happened at the pace and faster than most experts expected. In a way, South Asia seemingly surprising everyone with faster growth or recovery. So the stabilization of Sri Lanka in that sense also was consistent with the surprise. This is the good news. Not so good news is that the country is not yet out of the woods. The pain that is experienced by Sri Lankans, and I mean, you know this better than anyone else, is huge. The country is still having a poverty rate of about 25%. Basically, every 4th Sri Lankan is poor. There are millions of Sri Lankans who are a shock away from poverty as well. The human development, health, education, social protection, they all have got hit by the crisis. And this is the reality that we're facing. And then again, we spoke about workforce participation, women participation, and this is a big challenge as well. For Sri Lanka, we have seen also out migration, brain drain, and female participation as well has been falling in Sri Lanka. There is relatively narrow pathway forward, and unfortunately, there is no any magic, no silver bullet out there. It is going to be a hard work and consistent approach to policies.
Growth has turned around in the last 4 quarters. We've seen 4 quarters of positive growth. This has been led more, which is a large part of the economy, is recovering. However, there is still space for it to grow. It's higher than 2023, but remains well below past years. On the services side, there's been an increase in tourism-related subsectors. For example, accommodation, food and beverages, and transport, which has also driven growth. Tourism has been regaining ground, and inflows from tourism and remittances have been strong. This has offset some of the trade deficit that's now coming in, with imports recovering faster than exports, although we have some good news on the garment side lately. Current account is expected to be in surplus already in the first half of the year, contributing to a balance of payments surplus and also foreign exchange liquidity.
So yeah, it's important that Sri Lanka maintains this policy consistency, particularly to protect these hard-won gains. And I'll firstly emphasize the monetary, financial and fiscal policies. There have been significant improvement in this consistency over the last couple of years. It's important that this is maintained. These policies need to be complemented by measures to address the poverty and household incomes. We flagged two there. Firstly, around the adequacy and the targeting of cash transfers and the fertilizer subsidies. There is a new system, but certainly that can be improved, the targeting around that. And then secondly, the more progressive revenue mobilization measures need to be considered. Shruti did emphasize the burden of indirect taxes in supporting the mobilization of revenues. Sri Lanka also needs to scale up these structural reforms that have started to really set the country on a better path. So this would really help resolve some of these long-standing weaknesses, enhance competitiveness, and address the root causes of the crisis.
International rating agency Fitch Rating has issued a positive report over Sri Lanka. The agency has indicated that political risk to Sri Lanka's debt restructuring agreement has receded. Fitch Ratings has signalled that the agency to consider moving Sri Lanka's issuer default rating out of a restricted default after the country completes its commercial debt restructuring. The agency has indicated that such move would restore its relationship with the international financial community. The agency has also pointed out that many issues pertaining to international financial institutions has receded over the new government program following the election of President Anurakkumara Dissanayake. The agency has further indicated the productivity of the discussion series held between Sri Lanka and the International Monetary Fund in the past week has shown as a positive situation for the country.
Supreme Court Justice Murudhan Rupavahini Fernando has been appointed as the acting Chief Justice. President Anurakkumara Dissanayake made this appointment. She took oaths as the acting Chief Justice before the President at Presidential Secretariat this morning.
Now, calling for applications for the postal votes ended today. According to the Election Commission, accepting of nominations will be over by 12 noon tomorrow. 293 independent groups have made deposits so far. The Commission further states that 46 independent groups and 42 recognized political parties have handed over their nomination. Chairman of the Election Commission, R.M.A. Ratnayake, said that handing over nominations and making of deposits will be permitted till 12 noon tomorrow, and the duration for objections will be from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. After the objections period, acceptance of rejection of nominations will be notified. Commissioner General of Elections Saman Sri Ratnayake said that after the handing over of concerned documents to the Secretariat by contesting political parties and independent groups to the returning officers, the declaration of preferential numbers will be done by the Secretariat. Police media spokesman DIG Nihal Thalduwa said that handing over of nominations will be over by 12 noon tomorrow and requested not to participate in any kind of gatherings on foot or by vehicles. Two recognized political parties and an independent group handed over their nominations from one district today. Several recognized political parties handed over their nominations at Chandra Mandapaya in Polonnaruwa for the Polonnaruwa district. Several political parties and independent groups handed over their nominations representing the Anuradhapura district. Handing over of nominations from the Colombo district was done today in the presence of the Colombo district leader of the Sarva Jana Balaya party, Udaya Gaman Pilla. Signing of nominations of the Samagi Jana Sandhaniya was started at the office in Borella this morning. National People's Power also handed over their nominations for Kandy district at the Kandy district secretariat today. Jana Aragalaya party also handed over the nominations for Kandy district today. Sunil Handunetti of National People's Power handed over nominations today for the Mathura district. Samagi Jana Balawegaya party handed over nominations with the participation of its leader Sajith Premadasa for the Colombo district today. Sri Lanka Potujana Peramana signed nominations under its leader, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, at Battaramulla, Nelumma, the party office. The signing of nominations of the Sarva Jana Balaya party also was done today under its leader, Dilip Jayavira. Jana Aragalaya party also handed over nominations today for the Badulla district. United Democratic Party too handed over nominations for the Badulla district. Several political parties representing Battikulu district also handed over nominations. Sivanesa Thurai, Chandrakanthan and Karuna Amman also participated on this occasion. The New Democratic Front handed over nominations today under the gas cylinder symbol for the Mathura district. Second Generation Party under the leadership of Uvindu Vijay Veera handed over nominations for Kurunegala district today. Democratic Leftist Party under the leadership of Vasudeva Nanayakara handed over the nominations for the Ratnapura district. Signing of nominations of contestants of the national list of the National People's Power was done at the party office today under the leadership of its General Secretary Dr. Niyal Abhay Singha.
In the meantime, the National Freedom Front, in a media release, has said that it will not be contesting in the forthcoming parliamentary elections as a political party, in an alliance or independently. According to a media release issued under the signature of the leader of the party, Vimal Veeravanshi, it has been stated that the creation of a clash between the expectations of the majority of the people and traditional opposition in the parliamentary election is a negative activity. The release further adds the decision has been taken after consultation of all levels of the organization mechanism of the party. President Anil Kumar Dissanayake has directed officials to allocate lands owned by Kantale Sugar Company to farmers for a short-term crop cultivation. Accordingly, 11,000 acres of land is expected to be allocated in this regard. President Dissanayake issued these directives today during a meeting with officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Land, Livestock, Irrigation, Fisheries and Aquatic Resources at the Presidential Secretariat. These lands will be provided in plots not exceeding 5 acres each, and the President also instructed that a proper mechanism be developed for this process. As the Cabinet Minister, the President reviewed the performance and the progress of the relevant ministries and discussed upcoming plans. Ministry Secretary MP and M. Vikramasinghe was present at this occasion.
All state institutions have been instructed to obtain written approval for the Presidential Secretariat prior to displaying the President's photographs or messages on commemorative plaques or in designated celebration areas for various events. These instructions have been issued by the Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumaranayaka. Furthermore, the Secretary has emphasized the importance of ensuring that government-funded activities align with state policies and vision during their organization. This notice has been officially communicated in writing to all Ministry Secretaries, Provincial Chief Secretaries, Department Heads, Chairpersons of Government Corporations, Statutory Board Heads and Heads of Government-owned companies. Indictments have been filed against former Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Ajit Nivard Cabral, and 4 other defendants in a case filed against them alleging financial losses amounting to 1.8 billion rupees caused to the government to Sri Lanka through investments in Greek Treasury bonds. The case has been filed by the Bribery or Corruption Allegations Investigation Commission. Colombo High Court Judge R.S.S. Savipunda ordered to release on a surety bail of 10 million rupees per defendant after filing of indictments. The court further ordered to submit the passports to the courts after imposing an overseas travel ban on them. In case of them leaving the country, court permission has to be obtained according to the court order. The judge ordered to inform this order to the Control of the Immigration and Immigration. The judge further ordered to call the case on the 6th of December for inquiries on preliminary objections and to call for a report after obtaining the fingerprints of the defendants. The Colombo High Court issued an order freezing 2 bank accounts belonging to former state State Minister Anupa Pascual. The Colombo High Court judge made this order pursuant to a request by a Bribery or Corruption Allegations Investigation Commission. Accordingly, 2 bank accounts at Koggala and Matugama branches of the bank maintained by the former State Minister were frozen for a period of 3 months.
President Anur Kumar Dissanayake met with foreign envoys today. The meeting was held at the Presidential Secretariat. The series of meetings was held in line with the current government's policy of strengthening bilateral relations and enhancing global partnerships. Ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Sri Lanka, Khalid Hamoud Nasser Al-Madam Al-Khanti met with President Anur Kumar Dissanayake this morning. Ambassador Al-Khanti praised Sri Lanka's long-standing assistance and continued cooperation between the two nations. Subsequently, the President met with Pakistan's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Major General Fahimul Aziz. The discussion between President Dissanayake and High Commissioner focused on enhancing long-standing political and security ties between the countries. High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Sri Lanka, Andalib Elias, met with President today. The High Commissioner emphasized the importance in further strengthening relations between the countries. Ambassador of Palestine to Sri Lanka, Hisham Abu Al-Taha, met with President and praised the long-standing support extended by Sri Lanka to Palestine. He also extended gratitude for the firm support extended by Sri Lanka for the issues faced by Palestinians in the international level. Meanwhile, President Dissanayake also met with Ambassador of Turkey, Semih Lüftü Turgut, and attention was directed on the requirements to further improve the relations of employment generation and tourism sector and trade. Admiral Steve Kohler, a 4-star U.S. Navy admiral and commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, met with President Anur Kumar Dissanayake today. The admiral assured support for Sri Lanka in combating international threats such as drug trafficking and terrorism. He mentioned that the United States will provide continuous support for the human resource training in the naval sector.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says that the Sri Lankan government expects the support of Thailand government to rescue 40 Sri Lankans detained in cybercrime centres in Mayawadi in Myanmar. She's made this request to Ambassador of Thailand in Sri Lanka, Paitun Mahapannapan. A meeting was held between the Thai ambassador and the Prime Minister today at the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister extended her gratitude for the support rendered by the Thai government to rescue 28 Sri Lankans detained in cybercrime centres during the previous occasions.
The Postal Department says stamps consisting of images of the Prime Minister or the Minister Vijay Herath were not issued at a ceremony held yesterday marking the World Post Day. Speaking at the media, Post Master General Ruan Sarath said that the reports published on several media outlets in this regard are false and baseless. Postmaster General Ruan Sarath said that the stamps with the images of the Prime Minister and the Minister Vijay Herath were not operational use. He said that the stamps are souvenirs prepared for the chief guests of the event. He said that any persons in the country can pay a sum to the Postal Department and obtain stamps under the personal use service. He said that these stamps were produced under this service were not presented to the guests and were presented as souvenirs. He said that the Postal Department produces such stamp souvenirs for special guests and foreign envoys.
The Election Commission informs the private sector to grant leave to all staff in their offices for voting in the LPTL local government elections. The election is due to be held on the 26th of this month. The Election Commission announced that a continuous period not less than 2 hours considered to be required for voting has to be granted without any salary deduction. Accordingly, considering the distance of the polling centre, half a day leave for 40 kilometres, 1 day for 40 to 100 kilometres, 1.5 days for a distance of 100 to 150 kilometres and 2 days in case of a distance exceeds more than 150 kilometres has to be granted. Complaints had been received stating that leave not be granted for voting to those who are employed in the private sector during several elections. The Election Commission stresses that according to a decision taken including a number of concerned institutions, leave has to be granted as per the above order.
President Anukumar Dissanayake held a key meeting today with senior officials from both the Sri Lanka Customs and the Sri Lanka Inland Revenue Department. The meeting was held at the Presidential Secretariat. The discussion centered on the strategies to enhance revenue generation and improve operational efficiency in line with the government's broader economic mandate. During the meeting, officials from both departments presented the challenges they face in managing revenue and tackling tax evasion. They stressed the importance of strengthening the coordination between the Inland Revenue Department and the Customs to effectively combat these issues. It was highlighted that better collaboration would ensure a robust enforcement of tax laws and prevent tax leakage, further boosting the country's revenue collection.
Today is the 75th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Army. The Sri Lanka Army is considered as an army which displays professional skills and humanity at the same time. The Sri Lanka Army, which came into being on the 10th of October in 1949, is the force which stood in the forefront in the national requirements of the country. The Army has been able to fulfill an excellent responsibility both as a defender of the nation against terrorism and also natural calamities. The contribution of the Army during the 30-year Civil War in its victory is second to none. The Army, which has achieved progress through modern technology and methodology, is considered as a frontline army in the world with professional skills. A unique feature has been the exchange of its experience internationally after the completion of the humanitarian operation. The contribution rendered by the Sri Lanka Army during natural calamities like the COVID pandemic, floods and landslides is commendable. It has also given a special contribution in the development and agricultural activities. Lieutenant General Vikum Liyanage is the present Army Commander. Army Commander Lieutenant General Vikum Liyanage said that a considerable progress has been achieved in the welfare of Army personnel at present, and those projects will be continued and is expected to be expanded in the future too. He added that responsibilities and duties bestowed on the Army in accordance with the Constitution will be fulfilled, securing the trust reposed by the general public as a professional army. In the meantime, in accordance with the 75th anniversary, which falls today, 139 Army officers and 1,273 other officers have been given promotions based on their achievements and special services. These promotions have been awarded on the recommendations of the Commander-in-Chief, President Anukumar Dissanayake.
Ratan Tata, a global towering icon of industry and philanthropy from India, was cremated after he was accorded a state funeral by the Maharashtra state government. His funeral took place according to rituals followed by a Parsi community. Ratan Tata was born in 1937 in a traditional family of Parsi descent. Ratan Tata, who died at the age of 86, was one of India's most prominent international recognized business leaders. The tycoon led the Tata Group, a conglomerate of more than 100 companies, employing some 660,000 people for more than 2 decades. Its annual revenues are in excess of $100 billion. In 1991, Ratan Tata was appointed as the successor for the conglomerate. During his tenure, the group made many bold acquisitions, among them a takeover of the Anglo-Dutch steelmaker Cordis and the UK-based car companies Jaguar and Land Rover. High point came in 2000 when Tata bought the Tetley and became the world's second largest tea company. The deal was the largest takeover of an international brand by an Indian company. Ratan Tata remained as chairman of the Tata Group and Tata Sons from 1991 to 2012 and the interim chairman from October 2016 through February 2017. Tata served as the guiding light of Sri Lanka of India, steering the Tata Group through the national economic liberalization and journey through the global prominence. Apart from being a remarkable entrepreneur, Tata was committed to the social welfare, directing 65% of the company's profits to charitable trusts for education, healthcare, rural development. He also received the Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan in 2000 and 2008 respectively, and earned recognition as one of the country's greatest philanthropists for his generosity. Ratan Tata was admitted to hospital in critical condition and was under intensive care from October 7th. He died yesterday at the age of 86 due to age-related issues. A day of mourning was announced by the state government of Maharashtra and Jharkhand following his death. Tata received 21 gallon salute at the crematorium during his last rites, honouring his contribution to India. In his message of condolence, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi described Tata as a visionary business leader, a compassionate soul and an extraordinary human being.
Commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, U.S. Navy Admiral Steve Kohler, officially handed over a Beechcraft, a King Air 360ER aircraft gifted by the United States to the Sri Lanka Air Force. The aircraft was handed over at a ceremony held today at the Sri Lanka Air Force Base, Katunayake. The event marked the handover of this advanced aircraft, a symbol of enduring US-Sri Lanka partnership and a cultural step in strengthening Sri Lanka's maritime security and sovereignty. The event was attended by the US Ambassador Julie Chong, Secretary to the Ministry of Defence retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakanta, and the Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force Air Marshal Udeni Rajapaksa. Equipped with cutting-edge surveillance technology, the King Air will strengthen Sri Lanka's ability to patrol its waters, counter maritime threats and secure vital trade routes in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka Air Force personnel received specialized training to operate the aircraft, and further training will be conducted by US government personnel over the next 3 months. The King Air 360ER will undergo final preparations at the Ratmalani Air Force Base before joining Maritime Patrol Squadron 3 in China Bay, Trincomalee. Now, according to the Department of Meteorology, an increase in the intensity of rains can be expected in the southwestern part of the island from today in the coming few days. A turbulence close to the atmosphere of the island has been given as a reason for this. Heavy rains more than 100 millimeters is expected in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in certain places of the Galle and Mathura districts. The Met Department further says that the rains or thunder showers is expected during the evening and night in other parts of the island. At certain places, heavy rains measuring more than 75 millimeters is also expected. Category 2 landslide warning has been issued by National Building Research Organization for Walalawita in Kalutara district and Horanab.
Now for a look at several news items in brief. Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Paul Stevens met with the Defence Secretary Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakanta yesterday. The meeting was held at the Ministry of Defence. The Defence Secretary welcomed the High Commissioner and his delegation and engaged in a cordial discussion. The attention was directed on many matters, including strengthening the strategic partnership between Sri Lanka country and improving the defence cooperation. The individual was taken into custody in Barella while transporting a cache of illegal drug capsules. The relevant arrest was made by the Police Special Task Force. The 44-year-old suspect has been handed over to Police Anti-Narcotic Bureau for further investigation. A private passenger transport bus commuting from Colombo to Mbilipitia had caught on fire around 8 a.m. today. The bus was completely destroyed from the fire. 50 passengers had been commuting in the bus. No one has been harmed from the fire. Today is the 24th death anniversary of former Prime Minister Simao Bandaranaike. An almsgiving was organised in commemoration at BMICH. It was held with the participation of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga and the 65th death anniversary of the former Prime Minister SWRD Bandaranaike and the 16th death anniversary of the former Speaker Andra Bandaranaike were also commemorated at this event. We'll be back with foreign news after a short break. Now on foreign news, Hurricane Milton has torn through Florida, bringing tornadoes, floods and storm surges.
More than 3 million homes and businesses are without power. There have been an unknown number of deaths reported on the Atlantic coast. More than 3 million homes and businesses are now without power in Florida. According to the latest data, in the west coast of the state, the water supply has been cut and the roof of a Major League Baseball stadium torn off. Milton is moving into the Atlantic, but it will still produce hurricane-force winds and heavy rain over land. Milton comes 2 weeks after the Hurricane Helene killed at least 225 people in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia and North Carolina. In Plant City, east of Tampa, first responders have rescued 35 people from high water and some streets are completely impassable. Milton initially brought the winds in excess of 160 kilometers per hour, which downed power lines, structural damage and trees. Over 18 inches of rain fell in the streets of St. Petersburg and Tampa, which is almost half a meter, which is a 1 in a 1,000-year rainfall event for that area. Bit of a disappointing news as we start. Sri Lanka was knocked out of the T20 Women's World Cup from the group stage yesterday.
Sri Lanka suffered heavy loss of 82 runs against India in the most decisive match in Group A. India won the toss and opted to bat first. Accordingly, the Indian innings was opened by Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma. Both batters managed a good stance with an opening stand of 98 runs. Smriti Mandhana was dismissed for 50 runs and Shafali Verma scored 43. Captain Harmanpreet Kaur was not out on 52 at a strike rate of 192 and she is the top scorer of the Indian innings. Chamariyata Pattu and Ama Kanchanas picked up 1 wicket each. Accordingly, the Sri Lanka was required to chase down a mammoth target of 172 runs to secure their first win in the tournament. Sri Lankan top order continued to collapse as the first 3 batters were dismissed for a single-digit scores. Kavisha Dilhari scored 21, while Anushka Sanjeevani scored 20 runs for Sri Lanka. Putting up an abysmal performance, the Sri Lankan score was restricted to a mere total of 90 runs. Anuradhati Reddy and Asha Subhana picked up 3 wickets each for India. Accordingly, Sri Lanka crashed out of the tournament with only 1 game remaining in the group stage against New Zealand. That's it for tonight's English News telecast. Thank you for joining us.